What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Okay, so I wanted to let a few days pass before I talk to you about this. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but one of the presidential advisors for four presidents, Mr. Harald Malmgren, unfortunately and sadly passed away earlier this week. And his daughter, Pippa Malmgren, I'm going to just read it to you. This happened last week on February the 13th. I wanted to let a little time pass because he's, in my opinion, one of the biggest losses in the world because everything he did will be remembered in history books, and he will be regarded as a hero of humanity, not just America. Because during the Cold War, and there's a really cool explanation of what happened there by Harald Malmgren himself. Here it is.
Yes, I was there, and it was scary. No one in the world knew how close we were. I think at the key point, we were thinking we have 4 hours to decide everything, and otherwise everything goes off.
And you were what, 25, 26?
No, I think I was the ripe age of 28.
28, okay.
But I was the go-between between McNamara and JFK and McGeorge Bundy, who was the NSC director. And, it was a time when Jack Kennedy brought to Washington a lot of young, fresh minds, most of them economists. I was in that crowd. And our job wasn't to tell people with experience what to do, but ask a lot of questions, get people to think outside the box. And I was there conveying questions like, okay, if we go, what do we hit? I mean, if we hit Moscow and it only goes on a few hours and we want to stop, who do we talk to?
At the end.
At the end, yeah. And a bunch of generals, including the Strategic Air Command chief over in the Pentagon, said, well, of course we have to go and not worry about that. We've got to kill those guys in Moscow. They created all this trouble. And I said, but are we ready to go over there and govern Russia? And then everybody said, no, we're not planning on that. I said, well, then if you want to stop, who do you talk to? Why don't we just agree that hitting Moscow is the last thing we want to do? And then one of the generals said, that's the best damn question that anybody's ever raised. He said, and let's leak that to the Russians, and so they won't hit Washington either, and we're all safe.
And I'd love to see the profound self-interest.
Well, and then we also had this problem of everything had been pre-planned. We had a government that was ready to roll at the next level. And they were all supposed to go to a place called Mount Weather, which is actually right near where I live, now in the countryside. Mount Weather is a cavernous place in the mountains, and all these people were supposed to go, and all of a sudden the request came in, can I take my wife and kids? And of course the order came out, no, this is, they said, well, in that case, I think I'll stay in Washington, find somebody else. So what happens, the only people who went were the janitors and cooks and the people ready, to take care of people. Nobody showed up.
So that's interesting. So people, when at that moment, people said, you know what?
They chose family.
Yeah, screw America, I'm going to stay at home.
They chose family.
That is interesting.
That's why I say this 4 hours moment was really revealing of how people behave when they're looking over the cliff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we went through the routines of, okay, well, if we do this, if we do that, and then we put a cordon of ships around Cuba so that the last freighters coming with missiles would either have to break through our cordon, and that was the moment at which the Russians decided on their side, we better not do that because they'll blow up our ships, and then we're really at war. And it became clear they didn't want war either.
Yeah, nobody wanted it.
Nobody really wanted this.
Except for possibly Fidel.
Yeah, sure. For him, this would have been a win-win. He gets the Russians, out of his way, and he gets the Americans out of his way, and he can prosper on his own. Well, he thought he could anyway. So This was a devilishly complex, but when you get down to the bare bones of it, it was simple. The choices were, do we really want to do this or not? So fortunately, there was one go-between who's not in the history books, and that's Anatoly Dobrynin, the ambassador in Washington. Now, who is he? He was there from 62 to 86, but in 62 he was in position. He was also a member of the Central Committee in Moscow, a unique person who was actually at the head of the Russian government. And he was trusted, and he was brilliant. And so he actually, you won't find this in the history books, he actually negotiated back and forth, and he gave
Dobrynin was the guy.
Yeah, it wasn't Kissinger or someone, it was Dobrynin. But he got underplayed in history because who wants to write about Russians being smart? Generally,
Doesn't sell well in American airports.
No, we tend to dismiss these left-wing fanatics. We still dismiss them, try to anyway. And so, no, this was a scary moment. But there's one thing I have to add. At the time, because I was in that particular role, everything we knew, all the intelligence at every level, because intelligence is, has all these grades, but things that only the president knows, all the way down to things that the generals know and then the public knows. But they had to give me everything. And I said, well, one of our problems is all our radars face north. And the Russians are trying to devise a weapon that they can bring around from the south with a suborbital satellite and put a nuclear weapon on and blow it up at about 80 miles above the US. And if they could do that, they could use an electromagnetic pulse. And that would destroy our command and control system. Our missiles wouldn't fire. We'd be paralyzed. Well, the Russians didn't master it, but I never forgot because in a few hours I was given to sit with a bunch of scientists trying to figure out, could they do this? And we finally figured out, well, they were close, but not quite there.
So this guy essentially saved the world from nuclear Armageddon back in the 60s when the Cold War was taking place. And he also just recently, last year, started tweeting out what he knew about UFOs, UAP. And alongside the work of Mr. Geoff Cruickshank, who I've had on the channel, they both revealed stuff that people didn't know about how involved John F. Kennedy was in the UFO topic. When the Bluegill Triple Prime nuclear test took place, there is an object, and there's a video that Cruickshank himself allowed me to share with you right here. And I quote, "The last 12 months of Dr. Harald Malmgren's life were about disclosure backed by irrefutable evidence. Want to see footage of a UFO tagging along with an ICBM re-entry vehicle? We have that, kindly provided by the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Want to see that same UFO get blasted out of the sky by a nuclear blast? We have not one, but two views of that event. One fully classified, one fully declassified, and the other partially redacted, courtesy of the animosity between Los Alamos and Livermore Labs. Want to see the deck logs of the ships that recovered the object of the ocean floor? We have them, thanks to the US Navy. Want to know who took custody of the crash retrieval and NHI pilots? Thanks to Harald, we know that was Lawrence Preston Giese and the AEC Albuquerque Operations Office, Sandia National Laboratory. Want to know why JFK and LBJ toured Los Alamos, Sandia, and the Nevada test site a little over a month after the shoot-down event? Harald told us that it was to get a briefing and first-hand viewing of the recovered artifacts and biologics. Want to know why President John F. Kennedy got his head blown off in full view of the public in broad daylight? That was a warning to all presidents since 1963 of what happens when you try to collaborate with other world leaders and a united effort to understand what's going on. Bottom line is, Harald Malmgren got us to this point. It's up to those of us left to finish the job. On that video, there is an object that falls to the ground. And according to this article that Cruickshank wrote on the Liberation Times, Mr. Harald Malmgren was briefed on this event, and he even went to Los Alamos to be briefed on it. And there is also a picture that Cruickshank shared with me where John F. Kennedy was at Los Alamos right around that time when this event took place. So there is a connection there. And everybody was trying to get Mr. Malmgren on record to talk about everything he knew. And so this is where I mention what Pippa Malmgren wrote on February 13 when her father passed away. She said, "It is with great sadness to announce that my father, Dr. Harald Malmgren, has passed from us. He was an advisor to many presidents and global leaders. He had many important accomplishments. At age 27, he successfully prevented General Curtis LeMay and the Joint Chiefs of Staff from dropping a nuclear weapon on the Soviet Union during the Cuban Missile Crisis, thus averting a nuclear catastrophe. He also advised Toyota, the car company, to start making cars inside the US at a time when everyone else was offshoring. There is more to his life and his wisdom coming, thanks to American Alchemy as well, meaning Jesse Michaels, who filmed him before he passed. Thankfully, his passing was peaceful. He loved Twitter and asked me to send thanks to all of his followers. Harald B. Malmgren, July 13, 1935, February 13, 2025. So yes, this is a major, major loss for the world in general. And Jesse Michaels, as he tends to do it, he managed to get Mr. Malmgren on record before he passed. And Jesse himself did mention that this just quickly turned into his biggest project and most important project. And that's what he's going to be focusing on from this moment forward until he releases it. I don't know the nature of the project. I don't know if it was like a major interview or if it's going to be like a documentary with Mr. Malmgren appearing in certain places. But the last part that I want to share with you guys was Vinnie Adams from Disclosure Team had just this week Mr. Matthew Pines on his show. And Pines does have a professional relationship with Pippa and with he had it also with Harald. And he's one of the people that knew about Harald the most. So Vinny asked Matthew about Harald and his passing, and this is what Matthew had to say.
And yeah, he just had a very unique life. He was exceptionally brilliant as a young man. And we didn't get to his full biography, right? But stepping back, looking at the course of his career, you get a sense of like almost providence associated with his life, right? That he was in these places talking with these people, and in a position always to kind of do what he felt was in the public interest, in the public good. That, there are some other folks that he was around, right, and that sort of swam in the same circles as he did, like Dr. Kissinger, that were very much, oriented towards self-promotion and making their names be the names that are written in the history books. And Dr. Malmgren was the exact opposite. He did not care for the limelight, did not care for the notoriety or the attention, or the historical, kind of notoriety. But he was, equivalent in terms of his level of influence and access and trust by multiple presidents over the course of the Cold War, and I think shaped history to a large extent more than most non-elected officials. And so, I think he had a number of insights, perspectives on UAPs, which I really applaud his. When you reach retirement, you just want to chill out, go to the beach, read a book, and this guy was on Twitter just dropping bombs, right? Every other week it seemed. And to have someone with his pedigree and his bona fides and his intelligence come out and say, in no uncertain terms, right? Like these specific examples of talking with senior officials like Lawrence P. Geist at the Atomic Energy Commission, or Richard Bissell, the CIA, about other world technologies and UAP retrievals from back, as early as the early 60s. Hangs a lot of meat on the bone, right? Right. I mean, again, these are all firsthand anecdotes coming out of, the long arc of history. But I think it helps where we are now. We're going to have to look back at that period of history with a new perspective. So I think it is tragic that we lost him, before potentially, the conversation takes this turn in more explicit fashion. I think hopefully there'll be some artifacts, some records of his accounting of some of this information that will hopefully come out soon. So I think this isn't necessarily the last word from Dr. Malmgren that's been recorded for posterity. But unfortunately, we won't be able to get him live. Would also note that he did meet with Senator Rounds. Yes, just before he passed. I think it was a few weeks, maybe even, that he had a meeting with Senator Rounds. I think he did his part, more than most. Now that hopefully the baton is passed to other senior folks to maybe take this lesson, right? Like that, if you've got something to say, follow his example and don't be shy.
This is just like an acknowledgement of the incredible work that Mr. Malmgren did throughout his life, and how significant his role was in maintaining peace in the U.S. when things were at a high level of volatility. So I just wanted to let you guys know what happened, and let's just wait for Jesse Michael's project on Mr. Malmgren, see what he has to say. Hopefully, I would think that because he already revealed quite a bit of things during his short stint talking about UFOs on UFO Twitter, but I'm pretty sure that he had way more information to give out to the people. So hopefully Jesse managed to get that out of him. Our thoughts are with Pippa on this difficult time. I know that she had to do a lecture on the same day that her father died. She's a really strong woman, and she also is very involved in this whole topic, which is very important to her as well. So our thoughts are with you and your family, and rest in power, Mr. Harald Malmgren. Okay, guys, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, but that's going to be it for today's video. I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Malmgren and what he did. Let me know what you think about his contributions and about what he did during the Cold War and all the stuff about UFOs that he started commenting on recently. What do you guys think? Let me know. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Remember, like Mr. Harold did his whole life, stay curious. He did. Bye.